Hello again. So we're going to finish up our Unit 2 notes by doing some further graph analysis and looking at the ecological footprints of some specific countries. So it's important to realize that in this first graph right here, we have developed and developing countries. Okay. Now, for some reason, IB does not use these specific terms. Okay. So what you'll see them use is for developed countries, they will call them MEDCs. Okay. Developing countries, they will call LEDCs. Okay. So MEDCs means more economically developed country. So make sure you guys write that out. I would write it out for you, but I just don't have enough space. So more economically developed countries. And then LEDCs is less economically developed countries. Less economically developed countries. So by looking at this graph right here, our three most populated countries: China, India, and the United States. Now, out of these three, only one is a developed country. So this would be an MEDC. Both of these are LEDCs. Okay. Now, what's interesting here, we know that for decades, China had the one-child policy, and that curbed their population growth because it was at an extreme exponential level and they were running out of food essentially. So when they instituted the one-child policy, their population growth rate dropped drastically. Now, the one-child policy is not around anymore, but it has become so ingrained in their culture that most Chinese citizens still have just one child. India, on the other hand, is projected to pass China in 2030. Okay? India. And that's just 10 years, guys. It's crazy. So India will pass China as most populated. Okay? All right. So, looking at this graph right here, the question always becomes, what is the carrying capacity for humans on the planet? And what does it mean to live sustainable and to try to stay within that carrying capacity? So remember, carrying capacity is K, and this refers to the amount of individuals that can be supported in one specific area. Now, this green line is the organic carrying capacity. So this is basically what the Earth currently has right now. Now, if you look at these other two lines, we have the organic plus the spacious carrying capacity. Spacious, in this sense, means borrowed. Okay, and then here is our actual population. So, you look, guys, there's a huge gap between our population and our carrying capacity. We are way above it. Now, what this means, the organic plus spacious carrying capacity, is we're essentially borrowing things from the future. We're using things at a rate where we think that they're going to be replaced, or we're hoping they're going to be replaced in the future, but we don't know that for sure. Okay? So, the take-home message here is, if humans don't live sustainably, we risk a population crash. Hopefully we won't get to that point, but we have to keep in mind that we do have a carrying capacity. So what we're seeing right now is the human demand is higher than what the carrying capacity is. That's what this blue line can also mean. The population is higher than what the carrying capacity is able to support. So eventually we're going to have issues with forests, fisheries, aquifers, which is where our drinking water comes from, and soil. I know you guys learned about the Dust Bowl in history, or you will learn about the Dust Bowl in history. So if we abuse our soil, we won't be able to have crop growth anymore. All right, so moving down to this next graph, and this is an interesting one. It basically shows ecological footprints. Now, you guys already did an activity this year where you calculated your own individual ecological footprint. This one is showing us country by country how that difference looks. We know that in the United States we use a lot of resources and other countries don't, but this graph shows exactly what that looks like. Here's the United States. So basically in the entire United States we use more resources than all of South America, all or most of Africa. There's Australia. It's just kind of crazy. All right, so let's remind ourselves what the definition of ecological footprint means. So an EF, ecological footprint, is the area of land and water, there's my H2O, required to support a population's standard of living. So here's a question. Being accustomed to the way we live in the United States, can you imagine having to adjust to the resources that are available in Africa, or the resources available in Brazil, for example? Okay. Now we can see that EF's vary country by country, and a lot of that has to do with lifestyle choices and production systems and land use. So EFs, or ecological footprints, vary by country and are affected by lifestyle choices. Sorry guys, my handwriting is getting really sloppy right here. Okay, so here's the take-home message. If an EF is greater than the land space that the country actually has, that country is being unsustainable. So the United States, are we being sustainable here? Absolutely not. So if the area is larger than the actual size, this equals unsustainable. So the United States, we got a lot of work to do. All right, now IB wants you to know, be able to explain two specific countries. So maybe you guys recognize these flags. We're going to talk about the differences between Canada and Peru in South America. So, what are the ecological footprints of these two countries? All right, so Canada, the ecological footprint per person is 5.4 hectares. In Peru, it is 0.9 hectares. So just by looking at these two numbers, who is being more sustainable? Obviously, it's Peru because they have a much lower footprint. So, what is the difference for this? Well, in Canada, we know it's cold, right? High altitudes means low productivity. So they're not getting a lot of production from trees. So high altitudes equals low productivity. Now, Peru, on the other hand, is in a pretty warm climate. But what's interesting is they have largely vegetarian diets. So they have high productivity, and they are mostly vegetarians. As we'll see when we get to food production systems, raising meat for human consumption is very damaging to the environment. Okay, Canada is a much larger country, so people own cars because they have to drive places. In Peru, it's smaller. There is very low car ownership. Oh, nope, not care. Hold on, guys, let me erase that E. Low car ownership. Okay. Canada is also a wealthy population. And Peru is going to be a poor population. Okay, so as long as you guys can explain the differences between Canada and Peru as far as their ecological footprint, then you should be golden on this. All right, so we will continue on with the last page of notes in the next video.